statement, and so we'll turn it over to him. If you will, please raise your hands in the raise hand feature so we can have you on to ask questions. Coach Stoops.
Thank you, Tony. I open this press conference with a heavy heart as I think about John, Leanne, and the kids. Throughout the day, the outpouring of support for John shows you the impact that he made on so many lives. We, as an organization, are doing our best to support Leanne and the kids and our team. John was so well respected throughout the country and in our community. It's hard to state the impact that he had on myself, our staff, and our kids. We so greatly appreciate John and all the work that he did here, but more importantly, the man that he was and the legacy that he leaves. We will work extremely hard to honor his legacy for many years to come.
Okay, we'll open up for questions. John Hill, go ahead, please.
Mark, just with everything you guys are going through, the grieving process, what are the challenges of playing in less than 48 hours? I know in lots of situations people talk about a release or an escape in this thing, but I can't imagine it's that simple.
Well, we talked about that as a team, and first of all, we're gonna go out and we're gonna honor John. And if I think all of you have done such a remarkable job of documenting John's difficult journey and his struggle that he had with that deadly disease. And one thing about John that everybody will tell you is that he was here with a strong, positive attitude every day he could. And he essentially came in here and worked and coached until, it was the bitter end for him. And so we're going to honor him by doing what John would do. What would John want to do? And John would pick up and he'd come to work and he'd put a smile on his face even when he was struggling, and he would work. And the best way we can honor him is go out there and play the very best we can. I know I want to coach as if John was with me, standing next to me. And, if I could be a window through his eyes and, for him to see the game through my eyes, it would be an honor. And I think our players need to think of it the same way. Just envision him being there with us, watching us. And so, we will play. Our team will be ready to play. It's a tough day, but our kids will be resilient and they'll bounce back, and we will play hard in his honor.
Larry Bob.
Mark, how did you even go about today? One, I guess, having to break the news to your players, what happened, and then kind of helping them deal with the reaction to knowing what happened with John.
Yeah, I tried to call as many of his offensive linemen as I could first thing this morning. Wanted them to hear it from me before they heard it on the news or social media. And then obviously news travels fast once we put it on social media or it was confirmed on social media. So the players knew what was going on by the time they came into the team meeting today. And so we had a team meeting, and our FCA chaplain, Aaron Hogue, was in there with myself, and we talked to the team. I showed them the video that was out there that so many of the coaches and the players commented on, and Aaron said a few words, and we broke the news to them. And so we had a team meeting, and then we had to move on as John would want to do.
Josh Moore.
Hey, Mark, condolences. And also, early on, I imagine John was probably a great person to have, not just because of his offensive line, acumen, but being embedded in the state and having so much experience here, in the state. Was that the case? Was he kind of a through line that kind of kept, I know you and Vince have a lot of ties to Ohio. Was he kind of the guy that rooted you guys here in the state and help build those relationships?
Oh, there's no question, that it started early on with Neil and with John and the ties that they had to the state and, kind of educating me on the state and the history and so on. But John was very, very proud of his Northern Kentucky roots and being from the state and playing here. And so he's very fortunate to be able to come back and to coach here and be around his family. And so I was honored to have him for the 8 years. We were blessed to have him. He's helped us in so many ways. So to answer your question, yes, he's been important and influential in state since day one, and his legacy will continue.
Nick Roush?
I know his son Joe just finished up a year of football, and on Twitter you said there'd be a place for him. Can you just explain the motivation behind kind of welcoming him to the team potentially in the future?
I really appreciate you bringing that out while I violate rules. So
Sorry
that
about
was
that.
that's a family thing. That's something I've known Joe since he was a young boy, and just wanted John to see that and just keep that in our UK family and keep Joe's spirits up. I had a chance to see Joe today, and he looks good and he's handling it as good as he can. And we want Leanne and her family to feel supported right now and supported for years to come.
John Hale?
Mark, we talk so much about how inspirational he was the last 2 years as he battled his disease, but I'm curious, what were your first impressions when you first met him, when you were building that first staff with you and Neil trying to fill out those spots?
Well, how could you, and I mean this, I think it gets thrown around a lot, but it's truthful. When you meet somebody like John, how can you not love him? He really is a great human being, a great person, unbelievably positive, hardworking, loyal, blue collar guy, a great family man. There's nothing not to like. We hit it off immediately. It was a no brainer. Obviously Neil, highly recommended him and thank goodness for us, Neil did. He's a no brainer. And John's just a remarkable man. He really, really is. And inspired all of us, but so likable and so knowledgeable. So he did a remarkable job for us.
Jeff Drummond?
Yeah, Mark, earlier, I don't know if you saw Neil's tribute to John yet or not, but he made the statement along the lines of, not only did he keep coming to work, but he excelled while he was coming to work. And I'm just curious, your thoughts these last 2 years to see what he did with his unit and being as sick as he was.
Yeah, it is. I appreciate Neil saying that. I did not see that yet, but it doesn't surprise me. Neil obviously is very close to John, and Neil and I have talked probably 4 times in the last 3, couple days leading up to this. And so, but very true. John came into work every day and he did excel. And he truly did have a smile on his face and pulled people up and was always positive. This is a very strange year. And during the toughest of times, John was always there with that great attitude of his and with that great work ethic. And, he really does inspire all of us.
John Long?
Hey, Mark, my condolences to you and the team. It seemed like Coach Schlarman derived so much joy from coaching the game and playing the game. And yet, I don't know if it's just me, but it just seems like this year with COVID and everything, you're not having just very much fun at all. I don't know, maybe it's these Zoom sessions or what, but what can you do or what can we do to help restore some of that joy into Kentucky football again?
I think that's a great point, John. I think the fact that we're not communicating in person, I do enjoy our sessions, even in the tough times. I think face-to-face communication and reading people's body language and having a conversation with folks is important, and it's different right now. There's no question about it. I think, obviously today's a different story. It's a somber mood for myself, our staff, and our whole building. But day to day, I think the Zooms come off a little bit more. People have told me I seem a lot more tense or a lot more, but I think it's just me sitting here talking to a computer. I think it's a lot more enjoyable when we could sit there in a room and communicate and interact a little bit back and forth. So I think that is part of it. But certainly, again, a different year. I don't think there's any question. It's very different for our team. It's different, the way they live their lives daily. And, I think, it's most normal when we're on the practice field. But that only lasts a few hours, and then we all got to go back to our caves.
John Hill?
Mark, how much of the identity the offensive line has built as you all have had the success with the run game the last few years was because of John and the type of player and coach he was?
I don't think there's any question that our offensive line has the identity of John Schlarman. That's who he was as a coach. That's who he was as a player. Anwar was talking about it this morning at our coach's Bible study about how, he remembers John as a player, and you'll have to ask him what his nickname was. I forget what he said, but essentially that the team respected him as just so tough, and just relentless. And, that's what we want our offensive line to look like, that they're well coached, but they play extremely hard, are fundamentally sound, and give everything they have. And that's certainly John.
Josh Moore?
Mark, Neil and John had in the past talked about the recruiting trip with Bunchy Stallings and kind of how all the how off the rails that went. Obviously, ended really well for you guys. But are there any other moments like that you recall, or that you shared on the road trips, or things that you and him experienced together that kind of you reflect back fondly upon?
Definitely. Many times there really is. We're all blessed. Our staff, as we had our morning Bible study, and obviously we're very somber this morning, and really it was about John and talking about different stories. We all have our own, but we all have such a respect for him. I think what sticks out to me is the dignity that he holds himself, just how he holds himself, even through the most difficult of times. He always was just so dignified, and just, our team, our coaching staff, I forget who exactly it was. It may have been Coach Buffano or one of those guys early on, when we got to know John. He was just such a good person that we gave him the nickname, the Great American. And, that's truly what our staff called him. John was the great American. And it's just that's who he is. Really, I think all of us, he made all of us better, and we're all striving to be more like him each and every day.
Larry Hall?
Mark, for those of us that saw John play, he was such a relentless competitor. I never thought he could harness that enough to ever be a coach, because he was so intense. What was there about him, though, that made him where he could relate to former players, coaches, current players, recruits? What was there about him that he took that intensity, yet he could channel it in a right way that he could relate to everybody?
I think it's just his personality. Again, it's hard not to like John. He's a great communicator. He's a great person. He really is. He goes about things the right way. I think everybody can respect that. It was really interesting. I got, so many people the outpouring of support that we've received for John is amazing. But even, different players and, I'm just going to throw out one. I'm not trying to put anything on him, but it really meant a lot to me. And I told Leanne and Joe Schlarman this today, that a guy like Jedrick Wills, reached out to me and just, he just was touched by John and just wanted to pass on his condolences to our program and to his family. And that kind of sums up what you're asking right there. It's kind of who John is. And, he's just a likable man. He does things the right way. He's a good football coach, but he's an even better person. He's a great human being.
Michael Bennett?
Mark, what are you personally going to miss about John Schlarman the most? And if, John always reminded me of a golfer named Payne Stewart. Payne Stewart was probably one of the most beloved golfers out there. And John was very much that same way too. Is there any plans for UK to honor him in any way that will be something that we see every year, like a John Schlarman Award or anything like that?
I believe so. I mean, it's certainly something that we've kicked around. Obviously, this is all so new. As you can imagine, this has been a whirlwind for us here today, for the family, certainly for Leanne. She's trying to put together some plans, and they're trying to include us, the team, his football family, in the immediate and for the long term. Just off the top of my head, I would think most certainly, we would want to carry on John's legacy.
John Clay?
Mark, for yourself, I mean, coming up as an assistant, there are things you can probably do or to help prepare you to be a head coach, but I can't imagine there's anything that prepares you for something like this. How's it been for you? And has there been people that have helped you deal with this and about how to deal with the team, something like this?
Well, there isn't, it's been amazing how many head coaches, from throughout the country have reached out to me today. And, so many people have heard so many good things about John. And, that really makes you feel good for John, just because of just what an amazing, even if they didn't know him personally, just, the way people felt about him. I know my brother Bob, just by being around here and seeing John and coming to games or seeing John, just the impact that he made in a short amount of time, just says an awful lot about him.
Okay, folks, I believe that is going to wrap up our questions for today. Coach Stoops, thank you for spending extra time with us today from the normal Thursday alignment. And thank you everyone for joining us today and for what you're doing to honor and remember John Schlarman. Thank you very much. We will see you on Saturday.
Thank you.